What's up, everybody out there in YouTube land? Wrath2501 here. Alright guys, time for the Warhammer part of Double Feature Friday. Alright, so, we've got 10 heartwarmingly wholesome moments of Warhammer 40k lore by Major Kill. Okay, this seemed interesting. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Alright, so let's get started here. Alright, and go.
Today we'll go over 10 heartwarming wholesome moments from Warhammer 40k. There are actually a lot more than 10 moments, so if this video does well, like and share, then there's no reason why I won't make another one. Yeah, not much else to say about it.
Subtle.
So grab your teddy bear and let's get into it.
A bear of teddy. Ooh.
We all know and love the chapter master of the Blood Angels, Dante, and it's no secret that Dante is fucking sick of Warhammer and he just wants to die. He literally says it on the regular how he wants nothing more than the cool embrace of death. Fair enough, if I was 1,500 years old and had fought every horror the galaxy had to offer, I'd probably want to eat a bullet as well. After being horrifically wounded yet achieving victory over the Tyranids during the devastation of Baal, Dante begins to die, and he feels peace for the first time in years. He sees the Sanguinor in a vision, and he begins to accept his death. Then the Sanguinor steps aside, and Sang-fucking-Gwinius is standing there. Dante is like, holy shit, hey dad, is this it? Can I finally die? And Sang-Gwinius is like, no, you must suffer more for the good of mankind. Your destiny does not end here, Lord of Angels. Then the peaceful sensation of death vanishes and the agony of life returns as Dante comes back to life and consciousness.
Now
I get why that doesn't sound super wholesome.
Yeah.
Dante was denied the one thing he'd earned and wanted. But you gotta remember that Sanguinius is dead and his soul is broken. For him to pull himself together enough to give Dante the will to keep fighting would have taken a massive amount of effort. Sanguinius knew he was asking a lot of Dante, so he took it upon himself to be the one to ask him. Overall, a wholesome, difficult moment between father and son. Orcs are a pain in the ass, and not very wholesome. However, the pressure they put on the galaxy can create wholesome moments. When a big-ass orc war attacked Rin's world, the homeworld of the Crimson Fists, shit didn't go so well for the boys in red and blue. Their fortress was destroyed, and most of their brothers died. During the evacuation and the long-ass walk to somewhat safety, a journey that included many civilians, a mother who was carrying her 2 children collapsed in exhaustion. Pedro Cantor, the chapter master of the Crimson Fist, got others to take the children off her. He then reached out to her, with his battle brother believing he was going to deliver the Emperor's mercy, aka a cheeky neck snap, to the exhausted woman who could barely keep her eyes open. Instead, Pedro said, "You have done your part and carried your burden. Now it's time someone carried you." Pedro then lifted up the woman and carried her the rest of the way. I reckon the Crimson Fists are actually pretty underrated, especially when they have enough wholesomeness to rival the Salamanders. To say tech priests are cold and emotionless is a bit of an understatement. The majority of them have the emotional parts of their brains removed and replaced with bits of metal and computing hardware, so when they do end up acting with emotion, it hits that much harder. There were 2 tech priests who were in love and considered each other husband and wife, despite the Mechanicus not really believing in that sort of thing. When the Wordbearers attacked Calth at the start of the Horus Heresy, they were positioned to get a pretty easy win. However, an Ultramarine counterattack made it a lot tighter. That key counterattack was only possible due to the love of these 2 tech priests. Early on in the invasion, the husband tech priest was killed. However, he had created an antivirus that could protect against the Wordbearer's scrap code, hence re-enable a lot of the Ultramarines' technology. Only his wife was able to uncover it due to the bond they shared, with the override code to launch the antivirus requiring 2 numbers. One was the day she was born, the other was the day she became a tech priest. If they just had a normal professional relationship, it's unlikely she would have recognized the antivirus he created, and it's impossible she would have known both his override codes, so there you go. Even on the battlefield, love can bloom. Another wholesome tech priest moment was when a lonely male tech priest on a far-flung station decides to clone himself to get an assistant as well as a successor. However, the clone turned out to be a female, hence quite different to himself. This kicks in his fatherly instincts, which overrides his mechanical processes, and he raises the clone like a daughter. He forsakes all Mechanicus protocols because it makes her happy, teaching her everything he knows so she could surpass him one day. The most heartwarming part is the fact that generally, the protocol would have been to exterminate the clone due to the incorrect gender, but he did the literal exact opposite. Vulcan as a character is so wholesome, like, holy fuck, this isn't news to anybody.
I wish to bet this creature.
Saying that Vulcan was his greatest creation because he had what no other Primarch had. genuine kindness and empathy. However, the most wholesome moment out of everything was when he burnt that fucking elder child. Yeehaw! No, sorry, it's when Vulcan offered Dawn a hug after they had gone through so much shit. Dawn makes a joke about not wanting to hug Vulcan, but Vulcan hugs him anyway, and after a moment, Dawn hugs him back. It's important to remember how much shit the
And then Vulcan broke his spine.
Losing their brothers, getting tortured, seeing centuries of progress turn to dust. A hug was exactly what they needed. Imperial Fists and Iron Warriors hate each other. This is common knowledge, with no other rivalry in the entirety of 40k coming close. So it's funny to think that two of the most well-known characters from each legion shared the most wholesome friendship. You've probably heard of Alexis Pollux, a huge Imperial Fist Astartes with an intellect that could rival the Primarchs. He was an absolute specimen. Then there is Barbarous Dantiok, a genius god-tier Iron Warriors warsmith that told Perturabo to eat a fat dick when he turned traitor. After fucking over Purdy like a boss, Dantiok retreats the Ultramar and is ordered by Giliman to try understand and use the Pharos device, a mysterious Xeno beacon with very potent powers, such as the ability to teleport people across the stars instantly and act like a mini Astronomicon. It pretty much won the Loyalists the war. Pollux arrives and isn't keen on seeing an Iron Warrior garrison, even though they are Loyalist. So whilst they agree to work together by order of Giliman, the Imperial Fist look down on their Iron cousins. However, eventually, Pollux and Dantiok develop a mutual respect that becomes a friendship, that becomes a brotherhood. When Pollux fought Conrad Curse on Macragge, Dantiok used the Pharos device to save Pollux. He would save Pollux again by blowing up the Pharos device, mortally wounding himself. Pollux finds his brother's broken corpse and cradles it, insisting he will live, as the Iron Warrior's life slowly faded. It was very much comparable to King Theoden's death scene with his daughter comforting him, except instead of a chick who pretended to be a dude, it's a giant Astartes who is almost as tall as a Primarch. It gets even more wholesome. Pollux refused to leave Dantiok's body, guarding it despite the battle being over. Giliman himself has to come in person to relieve Pollux of his vigil, and even then, Pollux insists on being the one to carry Dantiok's body. This level of emotional connection is extremely rare for Astartes, made even rarer by it being between a Fist and an Iron Warrior. It's implied that if Perthy wasn't such a bitter shithead and Dawn wasn't such a closed-off brick wall, they could have formed a similar bond to this. Although Warhammer is all about eternal war and whatnot, numerous Primarchs and even the Emperor had genuinely planned for an era of peace and wholesome family bonding post-Great Crusade. The Emperor had created different rooms for the Primarch within the Imperial Palace, whilst Giliman had done a similar thing in Macragge, even including rooms for his two lost brothers. When Dawn was taking down all the Imperial Palace's pretty shit and replacing it with a fuckton of guns and other anti-chaos stuff, which wasn't exactly aesthetic, he felt a lot of sorrow and mused that when the war was over, he would restore the palace to its prior beauty. It shows that there was hope. The Primarchs and even Space Marines would discuss what they would do after the Great Crusade regularly. You know Ahriman, that legendary sorcerer of death who wants to crack open the Black Library? He originally wanted to tend his vineyard full time when the wars were over. The Night Lords aren't exactly known for their wholesomeness, especially since they threw their lot in with the traitors. However, they did have their moments. Most notably was the relationship between Talos and his slaves, Septimus and Octavia. He was very harsh and cold, but occasionally would open up and humour them. This next bit is a bit spoilery for those reading the Night Lord's Omnibus, so feel free to skip ahead. But when he knew he wasn't going to survive his next battle, he freed both of them from his servitude and told them how to best escape and survive to raise their child together. It was nice. Continuing about Night Lord wholesomeness, Sevatar is a beast and one of the best Astartes to ever live. He also possessed an extreme sense of justice. When he was captured and imprisoned by the Dark Angels, he made friends with a young psychic girl in a nearby cell. Upon discovering that the prison overseer had viciously beat the shit out of the poor girl, permanently crippling her, he broke out of prison and brutally killed the overseer, before then surrendering to the Dark Angels and going back in his cell. Wholesomeness doesn't always have to involve
he did it just to beat his ass.
Sometimes it just means murdering the fuck out of an abusive asshole. There you go. Finally, Gilliman's relationship with Gillimum is a very wholesome thing. This peaked when Gilliman was stuck behind an invisible wall that blocked a portal that led home to Macragge, but he could see and communicate with the other side. However, when he found out that his mum had nearly been torn to shreds by Conrad Curse, he simply walked through the invisible barrier through pure force of will, just so he could comfort her.
Damn! Okay, so pretty wholesome on some of those parts, and then he ends it with his patron of his Warhammer Schmentai, which is not wholesome. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was some pretty cool stuff right there. So like this video, subscribe, guys. If you enjoyed it, click on the link to the original in the description. Get down to Major Kill's channel, like the original, sub to him. Excuse me. You guys know anything about Warhammer? You know any good moments? Let me know. And I'll see you guys next time. Tune in every day for new content. Bye-bye.